Money can't buy happiness, but in Boston's affluent Maple Grove community, it could certainly rent a convincing imitation. This observation, made by Detective Sarah Ramirez during the Peterson investigation, would prove prophetic. Behind the pristine facades and manicured lawns of 1542 Maple Grove Lane, the Peterson family had mastered the art of appearance, until Christmas Eve 2023 shattered more than just their holiday decorations. Michael Peterson, at 35, embodied the American tech success story. A senior software engineer at Microsoft's Boston office, his $175,000 annual salary afforded him the trappings of upper-middle-class success. His colleagues described him as methodical, brilliant with code, and unfailingly polite. Michael was the guy who remembered everyone's birthday, recalled team leader David Chen. He'd bring in coffee for the whole team during crunch times. Never lost his cool, never raised his voice. But Michael's composed exterior masked deeper wounds. At 12, he watched his father collapse from a sudden heart attack during a Little League game. That moment, captured on home video, showed young Michael frozen on the pitcher's mound as chaos erupted around him. It was his uncle, James Peterson, who rushed from the stands to shield Michael from the scene. That same uncle would become both Michael's salvation and, ultimately, his destruction. Sarah Peterson née Bradley, 33, out-earned her husband, a fact she carefully avoided mentioning at charity galas and church functions. Her real estate portfolio boasted the highest closure rate in Boston's western suburbs, her annual income of $220,000 funding a lifestyle that turned heads even in wealthy Maple Grove. Her Instagram feed showcased a carefully curated life: designer outfits, charity events, perfect family portraits. Sarah had this way of making everything look effortless, her former assistant Jessica Martinez noted. But there were cracks if you knew where to look. Those cracks included a history of depression, carefully managed with medication and therapy, stemming from a childhood of crushing expectations at Massachusetts's most exclusive private schools. At the center of the Peterson family orbit was 8-year-old Emma, a precocious third grader whose schedule rivaled that of a corporate executive. Ballet on Mondays and Wednesdays, piano lessons Tuesdays and Thursdays, gifted program studies, and French tutoring on weekends. Her school pictures showed a gap-toothed smile that masked exhaustion. Emma was always trying to please everyone, her ballet instructor would later tell investigators. She had this old soul look in her eyes, like she understood more than she should. But it was Emma's special bond with her great-uncle James that would later draw investigators' scrutiny. James Peterson, at 60, cut an imposing figure in Boston's social circles. A retired corporate executive with a net worth of $4.2 million, his position on the church board and various philanthropic endeavors made him seemingly untouchable. Widowed 5 years earlier, he had smoothly transitioned from corporate power broker to community patriarch. James had this way of making everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room, recalled Reverend Thomas Matthews. Especially young women starting their careers. He called it mentoring. We should have asked more questions. The Peterson family's public image was a masterclass in upper-class perfection. Their annual Christmas card, sent to over 200 carefully selected recipients, showed them posed on their wraparound porch. Michael in a tailored suit, Sarah in Chanel, Emma in custom Laura Ashley, and Uncle James standing patriarchally behind them. The 2023 version would later become evidence, its message, peace and joy from our family to yours, taking on a grim irony. Their home life appeared equally immaculate. The 4,500-square-foot colonial hosted dinner parties where Sarah's gourmet cooking earned raves. Michael's wine cellar boasted bottles that impressed even veteran collectors. Emma's recitals in their converted music room drew admiring crowds. And James, ever present, acted as both benefactor and guardian of the family legacy. Financial records would later reveal the complex web binding the family together. James had provided the down payment for their home through a family trust. He'd funded Emma's education account and held silent partnership in Michael's side tech ventures. His mentoring of Sarah had helped launch her real estate career, his connections opening doors that would normally have remained closed to newcomers. The Petersons were what everyone aspired to be, observed Patricia Wilson, their next-door neighbor. They had it all: money, looks, success. Nobody saw the pressure building. Nobody wanted to. That pressure took subtle forms. Michael's late nights at the office, explained away as coding deadlines. Sarah's increasing dependence on anti-anxiety medication, disguised as migraine pills. Emma's quiet withdrawals, attributed to academic stress. And James's ever more frequent presence in their home, justified by his role as family patriarch. The facade began showing hairline fractures in early 2023. Emma's teacher noticed her drawing disturbing pictures during art class. Sarah missed several high-profile property showings. Michael started making coding errors that were uncharacteristic for someone of his expertise. But in wealthy Maple Grove, appearances mattered above all else. The Petersons simply smiled more brightly, donated more generously, and hosted more lavish parties. James Peterson, meanwhile, maintained his position as the family's cornerstone. His Sunday sermons at First Presbyterian drew crowds. His charitable foundation made headlines with generous donations. His mentoring program for young professionals, particularly attractive women in their early 30s, earned praise from business journals. None of these accolades hinted at what would explode into public view on Christmas Eve 2023. The Peterson family's carefully constructed world, built on wealth, reputation, and secrets, was about to crumble. The catalyst would be a single text message, discovered amid holiday preparations, that would expose the rot beneath their perfect family portrait. As Detective Ramirez would later write in her case notes, the Petersons weren't just living the American dream. They were selling an illusion, one that required constant maintenance. When that illusion shattered, it took more than just their reputation with it. It showed us all what can hide behind closed doors, even in the best neighborhoods, even in the most respected families. The Christmas lights that illuminated their home on that fateful evening cast shadows that had been there all along. Everyone had just been too dazzled by the bright spots to notice. Every Sunday at precisely 6 p.m., the Peterson family gathered for dinner at 1542 Maple Grove Lane. These weren't casual family meals but carefully orchestrated performances, with Sarah Peterson orchestrating each detail like a symphony conductor. The tradition, documented extensively on her Instagram account, @PerfectlyPeterson, showed immaculate table settings, gourmet courses, and always, without fail, Uncle James at the head of the table. James insisted on saying grace, recalled Maria Santos, the Petersons' former housekeeper. He'd hold Emma's hand on one side, Sarah's on the other. Sometimes I'd catch Mrs. Peterson's hand trembling, but she'd never pull away. Never. The weekly dinners served as more than just family gatherings. They were business meetings disguised as family time, where James Peterson wielded his influence with subtle precision. Over roasted duck and vintage wine, he guided Michael's career trajectory, approved Sarah's real estate ventures, and shaped Emma's educational future. The dining room, with its Chippendale furniture and crystal chandelier, became command central for the Peterson family empire. Financial records would later reveal the intricate web of dependencies James had woven. His initial $500,000 investment in Michael's tech startup came with strings attached. Strings that bound the young engineer to his uncle's influence. The family trust, established after James's wife Dorothy passed away, gave him control over significant aspects of their financial lives. The trust was structured brilliantly, noted forensic accountant Robert Chen. James maintained control while appearing generous. The Petersons' home, their cars, Emma's private school tuition, all tied to trust disbursements that James could adjust at will. Property records showed joint ownership arrangements that raised red flags only in hindsight. The vacation home in Vermont, the rental properties in Cambridge, even the boat slip at the marina, all required James's signature for any significant decisions. It was financial handcuffs wrapped in golden paper, Detective Ramirez would later observe. The Petersons' social calendar revolved around three poles: the Maple Grove Country Club, First Presbyterian Church, and the endless circuit of charity events that defined Boston's western suburbs. Sarah and Michael maintained A-list membership status at the club, where James had served on the board for 2 decades. Their family tennis matches, meticulously photographed for social media, showed perfect form and coordinated outfits. At First Presbyterian, the Petersons occupied the third pew from the front, left side, prime real estate in the social hierarchy of Sunday services. James's position as church elder gave the family an aura of moral authority. Brother James, as he was known in church circles, championed youth programs and counseled young couples, his own family serving as a model of Christian values. The Petersons were everywhere, noted Sandra Mitchell, editor of the local society pages. Every charity gala, every school fundraiser, every community event. Sarah chaired 3 different boards. Michael handled the tech for non-profit websites. James wrote the big checks. They were philanthropy's first family. Their holiday traditions epitomized their social standing. The annual Christmas Eve dinner at the Peterson home was the crown jewel of the season's social calendar. Invitations, embossed on cream cardstock, were coveted by Maple Grove's elite. Sarah's menu planning began months in advance, each course designed to showcase their sophistication while maintaining appropriate holiday warmth. Everything had to be perfect, remembered Jessica Martinez, Sarah's assistant. The Christmas tree had to be exactly 9 feet tall. The ornaments were color-coded by year. Even the guests were arranged strategically, business contacts near James, potential clients near Sarah, children's parents near Michael. Gift-giving in the Peterson household followed strict protocols. Presents were wrapped in coordinating papers, sorted by recipient, and arranged artfully under the tree. James always presented his gifts last, a power play disguised as tradition. For Christmas 2023, he had planned something special, a fact that would later take on dark significance. Social media captured their perfectly curated life. Sarah's Instagram showed candid moments that required hours of preparation. Michael's LinkedIn chronicled professional achievements, each one endorsed by Uncle James. Even Emma had a carefully monitored presence on kid-friendly platforms, her activities painting a picture of privileged childhood bliss. The Petersons' business connections extended throughout Boston's corporate landscape. James's retirement from his executive position hadn't diminished his influence. He maintained offices in 3 locations, held board positions at tech startups, and continued mentoring young professionals. His backing opened doors for Michael in the tech world and gave Sarah access to high-end real estate listings. James Peterson didn't just create opportunities, noted business associate Thomas Wright. He created dependencies. Every favor came with invisible strings. The weekly dinners were where he pulled those strings, but beneath the polished surface, strain lines were forming. Security footage from the country club captured tense conversations between Sarah and James in secluded corners. Church members noticed Michael's increasing absences from Sunday services. Emma's teachers reported the child drawing disturbing pictures in art class, dark figures looming over dinner tables. The Christmas Eve dinner of 2023 was meant to be their crowning achievement. The guest list had been curated with precision. Potential investors for Michael's latest venture, premium clients for Sarah's real estate portfolio, church leaders who could elevate James's standing even further. Even the seating arrangement carried hidden significance, placements that would never be used. Looking back, we all missed the signs, reflected Reverend Matthews. The perfect family dinners, the constant social appearances, the financial entanglements, it wasn't devotion. It was control. In the end, the Peterson family dynamics proved to be their undoing. The weekly dinners, the business partnerships, the social obligations, each thread in their tapestry of perfection became a tripwire. As investigators would discover, their social standing had become a prison of their own making, with James Peterson holding all the keys. The Christmas tree that toppled on December 24, 2023, brought down more than just ornaments. It collapsed the careful facade of family unity, exposing the dark reality behind the Peterson family's picture-perfect dynamics. The social media accounts went dark, the country club membership lapsed, and the church's third pew, left side, remained conspicuously empty. In Maple Grove, perfect families don't exist anymore. The Petersons taught them that. February 14, 2023, Valentine's Day. While Michael Peterson worked late at Microsoft's Boston office, debugging code for a critical project, his wife Sarah sat across from his Uncle James at La Maison d'Or, their reflections dancing in candlelight. Security footage from the restaurant's entrance would later show James Peterson's hand lingering on Sarah's lower back as he guided her inside, a gesture too intimate for family. They requested the private dining room, recalled sommelier Jean-Pierre Dubois. Mr. Peterson ordered the 1982 Bordeaux, $900 a bottle. Mrs. Peterson seemed nervous, kept checking her phone. When I brought the wine, her lipstick was smudged. The first text message that would later surface in the investigation was sent that night at 11:43 p.m. James, you looked beautiful tonight. This can be our secret. Sarah, we shouldn't have, but I don't regret it. Their affair ignited like a carefully controlled burn, each move calculated. James, at 60, had perfected the art of discretion through years of mentoring younger women. Sarah, trapped in the gilded cage of her perfect life, fell into the pattern with surprising ease. The initial meetings were disguised as business consultations, a prominent real estate agent seeking advice from a respected community leader. March brought a pattern of regular encounters. The Boston Harbor Hotel became their preferred meeting spot, James booking Suite 1542, a detail that would later send chills down investigators' spines, matching their house number. Hotel records showed 14 visits between March and June, always mid-afternoon, always paid in cash. Mrs. Peterson had a specific routine, noted hotel concierge Thomas Lynn. She'd arrive first, using the service entrance. Mr. Peterson, the uncle, would come through the main lobby 30 minutes later. They never left together. Financial trails began emerging despite their caution. James established a private account at Cambridge Savings Bank, depositing $10,000 monthly. Sarah received a black credit card linked to this account, its statements showing purchases at high-end lingerie boutiques, jewelry stores, and day spas. April witnessed their first near exposure. At a charity gala for First Presbyterian, Michael noticed Sarah wearing an unfamiliar diamond bracelet. It's from the real estate board, she explained smoothly. Recognition for top sales. The bracelet's receipt, later discovered, showed James's signature and a $22,000 price tag. By summer, their meetings had developed a sophisticated choreography. Sarah's assistant Jessica maintained two calendars, the public one showing client meetings, the private one marked with simple jail entries. James cited meditation retreats to explain his absences from church functions, while actually booking private villas in the Berkshires. Looking at the credit card statements, you can trace their growing boldness, noted Detective Ramirez. First local hotels, then weekend getaways. Restaurant receipts for two at intimate venues. Jewelry purchases. He was marking his territory with gold and diamonds. September brought a dangerous escalation. James arranged for Sarah to handle the real estate listing for a luxury condo in Back Bay. The property, purchased through a shell company, became their private refuge. Security footage showed them entering the building at odd hours, Sarah often carrying overnight bags. October 12th marked their closest call. Michael, bringing Emma home early from a cancelled piano lesson, nearly caught them in the family living room. Sarah's quick thinking, claiming James had stopped by to discuss Christmas charity plans, saved them. 8-year-old Emma, however, noted something odd in her diary. Mommy's hair was messy. Uncle James had lipstick on his cheek. The holiday season pushed them toward recklessness. The affair, previously contained to weekday afternoons, spilled into evening events. At the country club's Christmas gala, security cameras captured them in the coat check room, emerging separately with guilty faces. 3 days later, they shared a passionate kiss in the church parking lot, not realizing the new security system was recording. Text messages from this period show increasing emotional entanglement. Sarah, I can't keep pretending at these family dinners. James, just a few more weeks. I have plans for us. Sarah, what about Emma? About Michael? James, trust me. I'll take care of everything. December brought a frenzy of secret meetings. Hotel records show 5 different bookings in 2 weeks. James withdrew $50,000 from his private account. Sarah began researching international schools, her browser history revealing searches for private academies in Switzerland. The Christmas party circuit provided perfect cover for their encounters. As pillars of the community, both Sarah and James were expected at every major event. They developed signals. A touch dear meant, meet in 15 minutes, a straightened tie indicated, not tonight. The signs were all there, reflected Reverend Matthews. James stopped attending elder meetings. Sarah missed choir practice. They both seemed distracted during services. We attributed it to holiday stress. Their final documented meeting occurred on December 23, 2023, at the Back Bay condo. Security footage shows Sarah arriving at 2:30 p.m., leaving at 6:45 p.m. James departed an hour later, carrying a small gift-wrapped package, the jewelry box that would later be found in the Christmas Eve chaos. Evidence collected after the incident painted a picture of escalating passion and recklessness. 2,847 text messages exchanged between February and December. 47 hotel room bookings under various aliases. $387,000 in gifts and transfers from James to Sarah. 23 different meeting locations throughout Boston. 12 near-discovery incidents. 1 secret property purchased. The affair had transformed from stolen moments to an elaborate parallel life, complete with its own routines and rituals. James and Sarah created a world within their world, hidden behind the perfect family facade, until one Christmas Eve text message brought everything crashing down. What fascinates me, noted criminal psychologist Dr. Rachel Cohen, is how they maintained their public roles. Sarah still hosted Sunday dinners. James still led prayers. They sat at opposite ends of the table, passing dishes, discussing church business, while carrying this explosive secret. The final text message, sent at 2:43 p.m. on Christmas Eve, would prove their undoing. James, can't wait to give you your special gift tonight. After dinner, tell Michael you're checking on the neighbor's cat. I'll make excuses to the guests. 15 minutes is all we need. Michael Peterson, searching for the turkey basting recipe on his wife's phone, saw the message preview pop up. In that moment, the perfectly orchestrated dance of deception reached its final measure. The affair that began on Valentine's Day would end in a Christmas Eve tragedy, proving that some secrets are too dangerous to keep, even in a family built on appearances. December 23, 2023, 3:17 p.m. Michael Peterson sat in his home office, surrounded by half-wrapped Christmas presents, when his world began to unravel. His wife's phone, left carelessly on his desk while she ran errands, lit up with a message preview. James, missing you already. Those 3 hours weren't enough. The rest disappeared into the locked screen, but those 9 words shattered 2 decades of trust. Michael's hands trembled as he stared at the phone, his mind refusing to connect the dots that his heart had already aligned. James, his uncle, his mentor, his surrogate father, and Sarah? I remember the moment I saw Mr. Peterson through my window that afternoon, recalled neighbor Patricia Wilson. He was standing in his office, completely still, holding a phone like it was a live grenade. I remember because it seemed odd. Him being home early, not moving for so long. What followed was 18 hours of methodical destruction of ignorance. Michael, the software engineer who built systems to detect patterns, applied his analytical mind to unraveling his life's greatest bug. First, the phone. Sarah's password, Emma's birthday, granted access to 2 years of deleted texts, restored through a recovery app he'd helped develop. The messages painted a devastating picture. James, March 15th, the way you looked in that red dress at dinner. Sarah, April 22nd, Michael's working late again. Suite 1542. James, September 8th, I've never felt this way about anyone. By 4:30 p.m., Michael had downloaded every message, every photo, every location ping. His Microsoft colleagues would later note he'd simultaneously submitted 3 crucial code updates during these hours, automation masking devastation. The banking records came next. Michael's position on the church finance committee gave him access to accounts others might miss. Hidden transfers, a secret credit card, hotel charges disguised as business expenses. Each discovery was methodically documented in a spreadsheet he titled Christmas_receipts_2023. The level of detail in his documentation was chilling, noted Detective Ramirez. Timestamps, account numbers, coordinates from location data. He approached his own destruction like a research project. By midnight, Michael had accessed their home security system's cloud storage. 4 cameras, installed to keep Emma safe, revealed dozens of clandestine meetings. James visiting when Michael worked late. Sarah and James in intimate moments in the kitchen, the living room, even his home office. Each betrayal catalogued, timestamped, backed up to 3 separate drives. December 24th dawned cold and clear. While Sarah slept upstairs, Michael sat in their kitchen, drinking coffee, watching their Christmas tree lights blink. He'd arranged for a private investigator at 6 a.m., David Chen, a former colleague who owed him a favor. He was eerily calm, Chen later testified. Handed me a USB drive with evidence and said, "Verify everything. I need to be sure before dinner tonight." His hands were steady, but his coffee cup was full. He wasn't drinking, just holding it like a prop. Chen's report arrived by noon, adding professional validation to personal anguish. Credit card statements showed jewelry purchases, hotel bookings, restaurant dates. Security footage from the Back Bay condo revealed patterns of visits. Witness statements from hotel staff, valets, restaurant servers, all confirming what Michael already knew. Sarah spent the morning in Christmas preparations, oblivious to her unraveling world. She baked cookies with Emma, hung last-minute decorations, confirmed dinner arrangements for 7 guests. Each domestic act now read like a performance to Michael's watching eyes. "Mommy, can I open just one present early?" Emma begged, pointing to the pile under the tree. "Christmas Eve dinner first, sweetheart." "Tradition is tradition," Sarah replied, shooting a warm smile at Michael that now felt like another betrayal. At 2 p.m., Michael orchestrated Emma's departure to her grandparents' house, an annual tradition that would now protect her from witnessing what was to come. He helped her pack her overnight bag, including her Christmas morning dress and patent leather shoes. "Daddy, are you okay? You're hugging me too tight," Emma said as they said goodbye. "I love you, princess." "Remember that," he replied, watching his daughter disappear into her grandmother's car, waving through the window. Sarah busied herself with dinner preparations, checking her phone frequently, each glance now a twist of the knife in Michael's chest. He observed her from his office, noting how she touched up her makeup more than usual for a family dinner, chose her outfit with extra care. On his laptop, the evidence sat meticulously organized in folders, each one a digital archive of betrayal. The financial records folder bulged with 147 files of damning transactions. Next to it, a folder simply labeled messages held 2,847 screenshots of their intimate exchanges, while the security footage folder contained 89 videos documenting their clandestine meetings. He had gathered 23 witness statements, each one carefully transcribed and dated. The photos folder held 312 images he could never unsee, and at the root of it all sat a single spreadsheet simply titled Timeline, a meticulous chronicle of his world's unraveling. Each folder represented countless hours of investigation, turning his software engineer's precision toward documenting his own devastation. At 4:30 p.m., Michael received a final email from his private investigator, latest footage from Back Bay condo, December 23rd. "Are you sure about tonight? We can handle this differently." Michael's response was simple. "Dinner will be served at 7. He watched Sarah arrange name cards at the dining table, placing James at his usual head position. The turkey roasted in the oven, filling the house with deceptively festive aromas. Christmas music played through their smart speakers, Silent Night on repeat because Emma had set it as her favorite. "Everything has to be perfect tonight," Sarah said, adjusting a Christmas centerpiece. "James is bringing some important church board members." Michael nodded, thinking of the evidence folder labeled, perfect_lies. At 6:30 p.m., he went upstairs to change for dinner. In their bedroom, he could smell Sarah's perfume, the one James had bought her in September, according to the credit card statements. On her nightstand, a small wrapped package waited, tagged for later, J. He took one final look at their family photo on the wall, Michael, Sarah, Emma, and James, taken at last year's Christmas service. 4 smiling faces, 3 weeks of investigation, 2 decades of trust, 1 night to shatter it all. The doorbell would ring at 7 p.m. James would enter first, carrying wine and secrets. Other guests would follow. And Michael Peterson, armed with evidence and anguish, would serve more than just Christmas dinner. In all my years on the force, Detective Ramirez would later say, I've never seen someone document their own devastation so thoroughly. Every receipt, every message, every betrayal, categorized like he was preparing for the world's worst audit. The Christmas tree lights kept blinking, casting alternating shadows across Michael's face as he waited, watching the street through his office window, for the first guests to arrive. The Peterson kitchen awakened to the scent of cinnamon and vanilla, Sarah's methodical hands crafting holiday pancakes shaped like Christmas trees and stars. Emma bounced in her chair, creating elaborate stories about each pancake shape while Michael sat motionless, clutching his coffee cup, his laptop humming with deadly evidence in the study above. Through the kitchen window, fresh snow fell, adding another layer of pristine white to their perfectly manicured lawn. Look, Daddy. This one looks just like Santa's sleigh. Emma's voice pierced through Michael's dark thoughts. He forced a smile, watching his daughter drizzle syrup while Sarah hummed Christmas carols, her phone never far from reach. Each notification ping made her fingers twitch, and Michael counted each reaction, adding them to his mental inventory of betrayals. The annual last-minute shopping trip to the mall provided its own special torment. Emma dragged Michael through crowded corridors, her Christmas list fluttering like a battle flag. Sarah had excused herself from this tradition, citing dinner preparations, though Michael's tracking app told a different story. They passed the jewelry store where James had purchased Sarah's bracelet months ago, Emma's innocent comment about the similar pieces in the window driving another spike into Michael's heart. Back home, Sarah transformed their kitchen into a command center of holiday preparations. The specially ordered Vermont turkey waited for its herb butter massage while she consulted her phone repeatedly, ostensibly checking recipes. Michael watched from his study as she made a show of needing fresh herbs from the market, knowing her car would never reach that destination. His tracking app blinked with accusation as her dot moved toward the Back Bay condo instead. Emma's departure to her grandparents marked the beginning of the end. The annual tradition of 2 Christmas mornings would now serve as protection from what was to come. Michael held his daughter longer than usual, breathing in her strawberry shampoo and innocence, while Sarah fussed with Emma's overnight bag, checking and rechecking for the Christmas morning dress and patent leather shoes. As the car disappeared around the corner, Michael felt the last tether to his restraint slip away. Sarah's last-minute shopping trip provided the final confirmation he needed. Her cheeks were flushed upon return, hair slightly mussed despite obvious attempts to smooth it. She threw herself into dinner preparations with frantic energy, arranging crystal glasses and name cards with trembling precision. James's place at the head of the table seemed to mock Michael as he watched from the shadows of his study. The guests arrived in elegant waves, shaking snow from their coats and exclaiming over the house's decorations. Reverend Matthews and his wife brought wine and platitudes about the beauty of family tradition. The Wilsons from next door entered cautiously, Patricia's eyes darting between hosts as if sensing the approaching storm. And then James arrived, resplendent in his Sunday best, carrying expensive wine and a small package that disappeared into his coat pocket with practiced smoothness. Dinner began as a masterpiece of civility. The turkey emerged golden and perfect, its aroma mixing with pine from the Christmas tree and the sweet scent of vanilla candles. Wine flowed freely while James held court at the table's head, regaling guests with stories of past Christmases. Each word that fell from his lips landed like acid on Michael's skin, eating through the last layers of his patience. The facade cracked with a single text message chime. Sarah's phone, forgotten face-up beside her plate, betrayed her with a preview that everyone could see. Michael rose slowly, deliberately, his laptop appearing in his hands like a weapon. The evidence unfolded in brutal precision against the dining room wall, hotel receipts, bank statements, security footage, all projected onto the perfect cream paint beside the carefully hung wreaths. Chaos erupted in symphonic waves. Sarah's wine glass shattered against the hardwood floor, spreading like blood beneath their feet. James lunged for the laptop with surprising agility for his age, his signet ring connecting with Michael's temple in a burst of pain and clarity. The Christmas tree toppled as bodies collided, ornaments exploding across the floor like shrapnel. Reverend Matthews's wife began praying in tongues while Patricia Wilson fled next door to summon help. The arrival of law enforcement transformed their home into a crime scene. Officers found the front door standing open, Christmas music still playing through speakers spattered with blood. Sarah huddled in the corner by the fallen tree, her designer dress torn, mascara tracking down her cheeks. James lay unconscious amidst a sea of broken ornaments, his silver hair matted red against the hardwood. Michael sat in his office chair, staring at nothing, blood trickling from his temple while reciting code sequences to the empty air. Paramedics navigated the landscape of devastation with professional detachment. Glass crunched beneath their boots, wine glasses, picture frames, Sarah's perfect centerpiece reduced to glittering shards. In the kitchen, forgotten in the chaos, the turkey continued to brown past perfection, filling the house with the acrid smell of burning dreams. Crime scene tape created a garish yellow frame around the Peterson home, its Christmas lights still blinking steadily through the chaos. Neighbors gathered on their lawns in dinner clothes, watching emergency lights paint candy cane decorations in alternating red and blue. Detective Ramirez arrived as medical teams loaded James into an ambulance, his unconscious form a stark contrast to his earlier holiday magnificence. Inside, forensics documented each element of destruction. Wine soaked into the Persian rug, spreading beneath the fallen Christmas tree like pools of blood. The laptop displayed its damning evidence through a cracked screen, while gift-wrapped packages lay crushed and stained beneath broken branches. Sarah's carefully placed name cards floated in pools of spilled wine, the ink running like tears across their perfect calligraphy. Emma's room remained a shrine to innocence upstairs, her Christmas dress hanging ready for a morning that would never arrive as planned. Her letter to Santa lay abandoned on her desk, its childish plea for her parents' happiness now a cruel reminder of dreams shattered. Through the window, church bells began ringing for midnight mass, their joyful pealing a discordant soundtrack to the scene below. Detective Ramirez stood in the center of the living room, absorbing the collision of celebration and catastrophe. The Christmas music finally fell silent, leaving only the sound of evidence markers being placed and photos being taken. Outside, the Peterson home, once a beacon of holiday perfection, stood as a testament to broken facades, its Christmas lights still blinking steadily through the chaos, illuminating the end of a family's final Christmas Eve. In the days that followed, investigators would piece together the evening's progression through wine-stained evidence and broken memories. But in that moment, as midnight approached and the last echoes of violence settled into silence, the scene told its own story, one of perfect appearances shattered by hidden truths, of holiday joy twisted into tragedy, of a family's final Christmas Eve ending not with celebrations, but with sirens and shattered dreams. Detective Sarah Ramirez stood motionless in the doorway of 1542, Maple Grove Lane, absorbing the scene before her. The perfect Christmas setting had transformed into a tableau of violence, each broken ornament and blood spatter telling part of a larger story. The acrid smell of burnt turkey mixed with the metallic tang of blood, while pine needles crunched beneath evidence markers. The 9-foot Fraser fir lay like a fallen soldier across the Persian carpet, its lights still blinking weakly through broken branches. Inherited ornaments, check glass from Sarah's grandmother, hand-painted spheres from church fundraisers, Emma's kindergarten crafts, created a trail of destruction across the hardwood floor. The tree's position suggested it had become an impromptu shield in the struggle, its heavy base showing the impact point where someone had been thrown against it. "No one touch anything yet," Ramirez instructed her team, watching blood droplets on wrapped presents glisten in the camera flashes. 3 distinct blood patterns emerged under the forensic lights. A cast-off arc decorated the cream wall like macabre tinsel, aligning with James Peterson's head wound. Smaller droplets near the overturned side table matched Michael's temple injury. The largest concentration formed a dark pool by the fireplace, where James had fallen against the marble hearth. Family photos still hung perfectly aligned above the violence, their smiling faces a stark counterpoint to the chaos below. The Peterson family beamed from behind glass, Michael, Sarah, Emma, and James, frozen in dozens of perfect moments that now felt like accusations. A Christmas card photo from 3 weeks ago showed them color-coordinated in winter white, standing before this very fireplace. Patricia Wilson, watching from her kitchen next door, had provided the first witness account. She described the progression from celebration to chaos through her bay windows frame. The carolers from First Presbyterian added their observations. Shadows struggling behind curtains. The crash of the tree. Sarah's screams cutting through their rendition of Silent Night. Each witness filled in pieces of the puzzle, building a timeline of destruction. The murder weapon hadn't traveled far. A heavy crystal decanter, wedding gift from James to Michael and Sarah, lay shattered near the stockings. Emma's stockings still hung full of small presents, while the adults lay fallen, spilling wrapped trinkets across the blood-spattered floor. The decanter's fragments held both blood and hair, mapping the point where celebration turned to violence. Michael's laptop remained on the dining room table, its screen cracked but still displaying evidence of the affair. Months of surveillance compiled into neat folders, bank statements showing hidden accounts, hotel receipts documenting trysts, text messages revealing intimate betrayals. The family's smart home system added its own evidence, door sensors logging entries and exits, security cameras capturing the evening's progression from dinner party to crime scene. In the kitchen, the turkey had burned black in a forgotten oven, filling the house with the scent of ruined traditions. Sarah's perfect place settings lay in disarray, crystal glasses shattered, name cards floating in pools of spilled wine. A half-empty bottle of expensive Bordeaux, James's contribution to the dinner, stood upright amid the chaos like a lone survivor. The DoorDash driver's statement added crucial context. He'd arrived with a forgotten dessert order just as James entered, noting the older man's nervous demeanor and a small gold-wrapped package. 20 minutes later, he heard the first crashes while delivering down the street. The Wilsons' doorbell camera captured audio of the confrontation, Michael's eerily calm accusations, James's attempts at denial, Sarah's escalating screams. First responders painted the scene in their reports. Officer Martinez described finding Michael in his study, bleeding but composed, reciting code sequences like a mantra. EMT Lisa Chen recalled treating James, unconscious among broken ornaments, while Sarah huddled in shock by the fallen tree, fixated on Emma's ruined presents. The Christmas music had played throughout, Silent Night on endless repeat, a soundtrack to destruction. Smaller details caught the forensics team's attention. A woman's shoe print in wine led to the powder room where Sarah had tried to hide. Gift receipts mixed with hotel bills in James's fallen coat. A letter to Santa in Emma's careful handwriting asked only for her parents' happiness. The paper now spattered with evidence of how impossible that wish had become. Detective Ramirez made her final walkthrough as midnight approached. In Emma's room, untouched by the violence below, a Christmas dress hung ready for a morning that would never arrive. The detective paused, noting how the scene told two stories: the carefully planned holiday celebration and its calculated destruction, each broken ornament marking the death of a family's facade. Outside, neighbors huddled in their decorated doorways, watching police lights paint their perfect street in alternating red and blue. The Peterson home's Christmas lights continued their cheerful display, illuminating evidence markers and crime scene tape with festive colors. Tomorrow, this scene would become case numbers and court exhibits, but tonight it remained a tableau of a family's final Christmas Eve, their perfect holiday facade shattered beyond repair. As Ramirez closed her notebook, a last strand of tinsel caught her eye, glittering with blood droplets. In her 20 years on the force, she'd never seen a crime scene that so perfectly captured the contrast between appearance and reality. The Peterson home stood as a testament to hidden truths and broken facades, each piece of evidence revealing how quickly perfect lives could shatter, leaving only broken ornaments and blood-stained presents to mark their fall. Detective Sarah Ramirez's investigation into the Peterson case began in the early hours of December 26, after the crime scene technicians had catalogued every broken ornament and blood spatter at 1542 Maple Grove Lane. What started as a domestic violence incident would unravel into one of Boston's most complex cases, exposing decades of manipulation and deceit beneath the veneer of suburban perfection. The digital forensics team struck gold first. Michael Peterson's damaged laptop yielded far more than evidence of his wife's affair with his uncle. Hidden in encrypted folders were years of financial records documenting James Peterson's elaborate shell game with church funds. Each spreadsheet told a story of calculated deception, with transactions routed through offshore accounts and charitable foundations that existed only on paper. It wasn't just about the affair, Ramirez noted in her case files. Michael hadn't just been tracking his wife's betrayal, he'd uncovered a decades-long pattern of financial fraud orchestrated by his uncle. The Christmas Eve confrontation was just the tip of an iceberg that would sink half of Boston's social elite. Interviews with church board members revealed a pattern of complaints against James Peterson, all quietly buried by strategic donations and careful manipulation. 3 former secretaries described inappropriate advances, each incident followed by generous retirement packages and relocations to distant cities. The church's financial records, when properly audited, showed millions in unexplained transfers disguised as charitable works. Sarah Peterson's interview in custody proved illuminating. Between sobs about Emma's ruined Christmas, she revealed a calculated seduction that began long before her marriage to Michael. James had mentored her since college, grooming her with expensive gifts and career opportunities, positioning her perfectly to marry his nephew while maintaining their secret relationship. He said he could make me everything I wanted to be, Sarah told investigators. The perfect wife, successful realtor, respected socialite. He knew exactly which strings to pull, which dreams to dangle. By the time I realized I was trapped, the web was too thick to break. The financial investigation expanded like ripples in a poisoned pond. James Peterson's retirement from corporate life had been prompted by internal whispers of embezzlement, quietly handled to protect the company's reputation. His widow's death 5 years earlier raised new questions. Her life insurance policy had been changed just weeks before her accidental fall. Background checks on James revealed similar patterns in 3 other cities, each time ending with hasty relocations and generous settlements. The FBI joined the investigation when connections to known money laundering operations emerged. James Peterson, pillar of the community, had been playing a much longer and darker game than anyone suspected. Assistant District Attorney Elena Rodriguez took charge of the prosecution, building separate cases against both James and Sarah Peterson. The charges read like a legal textbook: attempted murder, aggravated assault, financial fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and tax evasion. The evidence filled 17 bankers' boxes, each document revealing new layers of deception. The preliminary hearing drew media attention that rocked Boston's social circles. James Peterson, still bearing scars from Christmas Eve, appeared in court looking every bit the wronged patriarch. Sarah, designer clothes exchanged for prison orange, couldn't meet Michael's eyes across the courtroom. Michael himself sat stoically beside prosecutors, Emma's photo clutched in his hand like a talisman. Bail hearings became battles of influence. James's attorneys cited his community standing and philanthropic works, while prosecutors presented evidence suggesting millions hidden in overseas accounts. Sarah's lawyers played heavily on her role as Emma's mother, while the state demonstrated flight risk through recently purchased plane tickets to Switzerland. The civil proceedings ran parallel to the criminal case, like shadows of the main drama. Michael filed for divorce immediately, his petition citing not just adultery but criminal conspiracy. The custody battle for Emma turned vicious, with Sarah's lawyers arguing that Michael's violent Christmas Eve reaction made him an unfit parent, while Michael's team presented evidence of Sarah's planned escape with Emma to Switzerland. Asset division became a forensic accountant's nightmare. The Peterson family's wealth had been so thoroughly entangled with James's illegal operations that separating legitimate from criminal funds required months of investigation. The vacation home in Vermont, the boat slip in Maine, even Emma's trust fund, all were frozen pending federal investigation. Plea negotiations stretched through spring. James's attorneys fought for house arrest, citing his age and community ties. Prosecutors countered with evidence of witness intimidation attempts made from jail. Sarah, facing lesser charges but devastating civil consequences, attempted to trade testimony against James for a lighter sentence. The criminal trial began in June, transforming the courthouse into a media circus. Church members testified about years of financial manipulation disguised as religious charity. Business associates revealed patterns of blackmail and fraud. Former mentees described James's predatory pattern of grooming young women, adding sexual assault to his growing list of charges. The verdict, when it came, fell like thunder through Boston's social world. James Peterson, once the epitome of success and respectability, received 30 years for financial crimes and attempted murder. Sarah, turning state's evidence, got 5 years with possibility of parole, losing all parental rights to Emma. The civil judgment stripped both of assets, with millions ordered in restitution. Michael Peterson emerged from the legal proceedings with full custody of Emma, his own reputation battered but intact. The court recognized his Christmas Eve actions as justified given the circumstances, though mandated anger management counseling and ongoing psychological support for both father and daughter. The Peterson case rewrote Boston's legal landscape. New church financial oversight regulations were implemented statewide. The FBI established a task force specifically to investigate similar long-term fraud schemes hiding behind charitable facades. The divorce became a landmark case in Massachusetts family law regarding parental rights in criminal conspiracies. The final hearing occurred exactly 1 year after the Christmas Eve confrontation. Michael and Emma had moved to a smaller home across town, away from the memories of Maple Grove Lane. Sarah watched from prison as her assets were divided, her life dismantled piece by piece. James, appearing via video from federal prison, maintained his dignified facade even as the judge ordered the last of his hidden accounts seized. Detective Ramirez kept the Peterson case file on her desk long after the legal proceedings ended. The photo of their last Christmas card remained paper-clipped to the cover, a reminder that perfect surfaces often hide the deepest wounds, and that sometimes it takes a Christmas Eve tragedy to expose decades of carefully hidden truths. The investigation that began with broken ornaments and spilled wine ended by breaking open decades of secrets, proving that even the most perfectly wrapped packages can hide the darkest gifts. In Boston's social circles, Christmas Eve would never be quite the same again. The dismantling of the Peterson family happened in precise, legal increments. Emma's childhood home sold at auction the following spring, its pristine facade unable to escape the stigma of that Christmas Eve. The perfectly manicured lawn where she once built snowmen became a testament to abandonment as prospective buyers shied away, whispering about bloodstains and broken promises. Custody arrangements crystallized with clinical efficiency. Michael Peterson gained full custody of Emma, the court citing Sarah's planned escape to Switzerland as evidence of flight risk. Their new home, a modest colonial across town, deliberately lacked a formal dining room or space for Christmas trees. Emma's therapy sessions became the only fixed appointment in their reconstructed lives. Children in these situations often blame themselves, noted Dr. Rachel Cohen, the child psychologist who worked with Emma.